Alright guys, more vintage cube action here on the channel. I guess you can consider this a hangover cube draft, with the Vegas qualifiers being finished for at least for my sake. There was a few days of break, but now the single elimination queues are back up, and we have a choice to make here in the first pack. Not an easy one, that's for sure. Reprieve, Deathgreeter's Champion, Workshop, if you're really into it. I think I'm just going to first pick Reprieve here. Reprieve is going to be awesome in any white deck, especially if you have creatures. I like it a lot. It's like a white time walk if you have creatures. So let's see where that takes us. With that being said, we can easily play it in blue-white control and stuff like that. Unclear if we can wheel anything. I mean, if we wheel the Legionnaire and we're white at that point, white aggro, that is, that would be great. But yeah, not the best first pick, that's for sure. Probably one of the worst you can imagine. What's up with the next pack here? Now we are already faced with a choice. I can continue down the white aggro path and take Flicker Wisp, which in general I think can be a bit too early to do stuff like that. But when I look around the pack, I don't see, you know, any card that's screaming my name. Let's say Volcanic Island was a white duel of some sorts, Stander's Lounge was a white triumph of sorts. I would be way more interested in that. I mean, Springheart Nantuko is a good card. Probe goes in any deck. Yeah, pretty tough choice here. I guess if I were to pick the best card of the pack, it's probably Volcanic Island or Springheart Nantuko. I don't even know if that's viable. I feel like Volcanic is not that exciting. I don't know. I'll just try and take Flicker Wisp here and see if we can get into that lane. Super weird and tough pack for sure. Okay, next pack is another interesting one. So yeah, this is going to be a good one. We have Thalia, which will be, you know, it's a fine card against some decks. It's a great card against some decks. It's a bad card against other decks, but it is a card for mono-white aggro. Chrome Mox, generally not my favorite Chrome Mox start. So I might not want to take that one. There's Fractured Identity, which is quite cool as a, let's say, curve topper off the splash. Yeah, pretty interesting. I'm going to go with the Thalia here. Incredibly close. Like, I'm not going to blame anyone for taking, you know, Rafine's Tower, Memory Lapse, Fractured Identity. I'm basically checking if mono white is open. And now we have this pack. So now this draft got interesting, right? We have a whole lot of, not a lot of cards that any, like, they're not even close to going with what I have going on here. So there is a world where Leyline Binding, I pick up some Triomes, and all of a sudden Leyline Binding is a card, but I don't really love that prospect. I guess I just take Underground Sea and see where that takes me. Spelljacker would be a fine curve topper for exactly white, like, you know, white with, like, kind of like the Fractured in the previous pack. Yeah, I'm just going to take Underground Sea here and open myself up a little bit when it comes to which cards to take. Okay, here's Thraben. Thraben is like Thalia power level. Will be fine, of course, in a lot of decks. Not premium, but that's basically this pack in a nutshell. Let's say I was willing to stay as open as possible. I don't know, I'd probably take the Seachrome Coast, but I'm okay taking the Thraben here. So when I took the Thalia, I was close to taking Fractured Identity. When I took Underground Sea, I don't know, Spelljacker, really not ideal. Let's see, if white is open, everything's good, but could have drafted this a bit more. I don't even know which word to say. I could have drafted the best card out of the packs a bit more. Then my start would look more chaotic, but I would have more ways to go, so to speak. So yeah, now we have a similar pick. Cathar Commando is totally fine. There's a slightly better card in Spell Pierce in the pack. So we're kind of following that trend of saying, as long as we're on track, everything's going to be fine. Yeah, a lot of mediocre cards. Temple Garden, Spell Pierce, Cathar Commando. Yep. I'm not picky. I like that card. So now we have 5 cards for that deck, and we had 1 miss. That 1 miss could mean somebody else is drafting it. That miss could mean the pack just didn't have a white card. Right now, I'm leaning towards the pack just didn't have a white card. White aggro card, that is. Could, of course, be, you know, Swords of Plowshares and, you know, the upper echelon of white cards. But, you know, cards in the same tier as Thraben, Cathar, Flicker Wisp, Thalia. And here's the, I don't want to call it a confirmation, but almost, right? Because now we have 2 good ones, with Luminarch Aspirant being slightly better than Glimmerlance. Luminarch Aspirant is a card that it's like such a low investment. It snowballs, has to get dealt with eventually. Pretty nice. A lot of 2-drops can just get, you know, outclassed. So this is why this card is good. I love Glimmerlance as well. And I wouldn't mind speculating on Batterskull either. So very good pack for me, and more importantly, very good sign for me. As always, thanks so much for being here. It's always a treat. I've been noticing a lot of comments lately about how I approach the game, how I deal with adversity, how I, you know, put certain situations into words instead of complaining, basically. So yeah, I appreciate you guys noticing for sure. Okay, here I can take Guardian Scale Lord, which is a, you know, totally fine curve topper, but I'm actually going to take Pest Infestation. It does require me to work on the mana. I already passed Temple Garden, so, but I think it's worth it. Passing up on Cauldron Complete. Move to the deck. Yeah, so, and I also see a lot of comments from great players who have input on, oh, you should have thought about this, or at least talk about this. You didn't consider this. This card was obviously a better pick. I enjoy that. Enjoy that a lot. I always care about, you know, getting inspired, and getting inspired is not the same as, you know, copying everybody else's approach to things. Being inspired is taking everything into account and forming your own opinion. So, super excited about lots of great players taking the time out of their busy schedule to chime in. Here, this pack really doesn't do anything. I guess if I can splash the champion for free, I will do it. Wow, Nantuko even wheeling. Does that mean I'm supposed to go into, you know, white-green? I don't think so. I'm just going to take the touch here, and then I'm going to say, wow. We can take the Rafine's Tower. Rafine's Tower means I can draft power if I get it. I guess I might run this Boseiju with some forests if everything goes grim on the splash. Let's see. Okay, so status after pack 1 is white is open, so I'm gonna get a good white deck. Now I need to make mature decisions when it comes to focusing on my mana curve, when it comes to whether I should splash this Infestation or not. And overall, try and get the best white deck possible out of this draft. So, first pick here is not that exciting. Giver of Runes versus Mox Diamond. As I talked about with Chrome Mox, I feel the same about Mox Diamond. It's really not a great Mox Diamond deck. Mox Diamond is good when you're powering out, you know, Lelia, Fable. These cards that kind of give you back some value. Grist, Teferi. When you're just, you know, trying to play a Flicker Wisp ahead of schedule, it's not really ideal. That said, I think the Giver is wheeling, but I don't think I can take advantage of that. So let's say there was another, you know, niche card for my deck. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, Soul Guide Lantern, a sideboard card. I would take the Soul Guide because I would trust the Giver to wheel, but here I might as well just take the Giver. It's always cool to see if you can get 2 cards out of the pack instead of 1. Of course, you have to also factor in how important is the second card versus do you just want to, you know, lock that card in. Here, Giver wasn't, you know, that amazing. Let's say it was a better card like Mother of Runes, then maybe the decision would be closer. Wow, yeah, great pack for everybody but me. So let's see. I have an Underground Sea. What can that card do? I have an Underground Sea and a Rafine's Tower. So in theory, right now the sea is not helping with nothing, basically. So I would need to have a imagine a world where I get a corresponding fetch land later, or I get to use both black and blue at some point. Which card is more likely? So I think Pyroglyph is the best card, but I think Remand is more likely to make my deck and will be good in my deck. You can also argue a card like Barrowgoyf is great. Is that better? Black versus blue, basically. We have two sources of each. Feel like this Remand effect is more unique, so I take it, and I trust that I can wheel Paragon or Seraph. Maybe that's bad logic. Maybe I should just get both of them. Okay, fine. I'll take the Seraph and I'll try and wheel the 4-drop. I got kind of sidetracked there for a second. Let me zone back in here. Okay, so now Elite Spellbinder is just go straight into the deck, no questions asked. Then there's a card like Scalding Tarn that opens up for the splash. Currently splashing for nothing. Maybe it's a good spec. I actually like taking the Tarn here. It puts me to 3 black sources, 3 blue sources without having to work for it. Spellbinder is good, but can wheel. There's also... I'm going to take the Tarn here, but yeah, cool options to have. Here I like Ocelot Pride, here I like Stoneforge Mystic, here I like Teferi. I think I'm just supposed to take Ocelot Pride. I don't have the equipment right now, and I passed Batterskull, I passed Culture Complete, I even passed Glimmerlens, so let's just take the Ocelot Pride here over Stoneforge, over Teferi, I guess. I still have yet to work on my... Let's see how this works. I still have yet to work on my green mana for Pest Infestation, but if it doesn't happen, it just is what it is. Here's Unexpectedly Absent, a cool universal answer card. Actually, last video, there was a couple of you guys suggesting that absenting a Lelia in response to the attack trigger is awesome, and yeah, for sure. That was definitely not on my radar, and that has been added to my arsenal. Okay, here's the Lion Sash, having some graveyard hate, also getting a bit more value out of potentially wheeling the Stoneforge Mystic. I like Lion Sash. It's not amazing. It's fine. What do we have here? We have a Shadowy Backstreet as, you know, another black source that I don't know if I'll ever use, but I'm not taking it over anything, so let's just add those guys to the deck. Okay, I actually like Beza quite a bit. Could take Generous End, but I think Beza is just super serviceable. I don't have any 4s yet, so that is awesome. Also, worth noting is I will wheel something here. I will wheel something useful and get at least 1 or 2 more good cards before this pack is over. So I'm definitely well on track here. So Pest Infestation is a maybe. All of these lands are maybes. If I just keep taking white cards, I might end up playing 0 of those lands, no Pest Infestation. So let's see about that. This pack has nothing, but I'm playing a pod, so this is something I should have thought about earlier. This is actually why I prefer these tournaments. I guess I don't really care about any card aside from a quick 2020, and even so, my white deck with Flicker Wisp, Touch the Spirit Realm, Unexpectedly Absent, Flying Blockers even, is pretty likely to deal with a Merit Lage. So maybe that logic was flawed. Let's see if we can wield the Sarah Paragon. I like that card a fair bit when the game is about, you know, counter spells, removal spells, etc. Trading in combat. Then that card is something that, you know, it's kind of like a Lurrus card. It makes all of those 1-for-1 exchanges be favorable for you, most likely. Let's see, how much removal do I have? I have Touch and Absent, so like Plow, Path, we do wield the Paragon. Plow, Path, Council's Judgment, the 3-mana Spirit that exiles a permanent with 4 or less. We have a lot of removal left in the cube, and I believe I will get the double white ones. So right now we have a lot of lands, let's just say, but if we open Timewalker Ancestral, we're already, you know, in a position to play it. So funnily enough, here's Thespian Stage that does nothing, close to nothing with that card gone. I'm going to take it here to assert dominance. Here's Stoneforge Mystic, but I actually think I should hate pick this Pyrokinesis. Let's see, Stoneforge Mystic for Lion Sash. That is decent. Pyrokinesis could ruin my day, and I believe all of the equipments except, like, good equipment except Skull Clamp is gone, so bit of controversial decision there. And here I can hate pick Lavamancer with the same logic as Pyrokinesis. Okay, so lots of lands we're not using, and a couple of green cards we're most likely not playing. Temple Garden is gone from earlier. It just looks, you know, more and more unrealistic by the minute that I'm getting there on the splash. Cool pack. So I love Arwen, but same, if I don't have the lands, I'm not going to take it. So what I could do here is speculate on Hallowed Fountain further. Don't think that's the move. I could take Jite, which is, you know, going to be reasonable in any creature matchup. Green is definitely drafted in this pod. If I take that, I can try and wheel Elspeth, which is, like, not exciting, but serviceable. I could also hate pick Academy. Is that insane? Is it insane to hate pick Academy here? Let's see. 3/9 plus 5. That's 14. I'm actually going to try and hate pick the Academy here. So now I've hate picked Pyrokinesis and Academy. Pretty interesting. This pack is good for me. So I have Jackrabbit, and I can wheel the Interrupter. I can also take Razorverge Thicket, but I don't think that's the move. If this was Savannah, I would highly consider it, but now I'm just going to try and get a couple of white cards out of the pack. And here's the Apparition I talked about. Sure, here's an equipment for the Stoneforge that I passed, but it's not really that great of an equipment. I like Apparition a lot. Answers, I don't know, 9 out of 10 cards in the cube. And here's Esper Sentinel. This is just, you know, pretty cool. Getting, you know, just one fine to good card out of each pack. I don't need more. I will say the fact that I have no wheeling potential is, of course, a factor, but I think it's fine. Adversary, same thing. One good white card in the pack. It's, you know, decent turn 2, great later. I like that card a lot. There's also Ancient Tomb, but I think this card is better. So now, funnily enough, I'm facing the Soul Guide Lantern pick that I talked about and some, like, decent fixing, but I'm going to take the Lantern, and if I end up short on playables, I can main deck it. So it turns out I'm not using any of the fetches, triomes that I ended up picking, unless, you know, I fall super flat on playables here towards the end. Let's see how many cards is left. There's 9 cards left, and I need 3 more playables. So I am definitely on track to get a sweet white deck here. No power, but just good quality up the curve. I'll try and make it snow on the opponent here with mono white. It always ends up, like, very mid-rangey. Like, if I was aggro, it was like Savannah Lion type card, but the design of the cube is on purpose, you know, that white is supposed to have more mileage, and then the red aggro cards are supposed to be, you know, force through damage, get it over with. So funnily enough, here's a miss. I can take the Triome. The Triome doesn't even go with Scalding Tarn, which is very sad. It is a green source, so there's a world where I go, like, 1 Triumph, 1 Beseiju, 1 basic forest, and I play Pest Infestation. I don't hate that at all. 3 sources, and then I have a little bit of added value from Beseiju. If I already have drawn a green source, then that turns into also a Disenchant or Wasteland, right? So pretty decent. I'll take it any day of the week. With that being said, if I don't get any more fixing and I fill out the deck with solid white cards, you're not going to hear complaints from me either. So yeah, this draft was interesting because I chose to hate pick Pyrokinesis and Academy because we're playing Pod. So this is why I highly, highly, highly prefer this over playing Leagues. Wow, as I get a absolute last pack Magic Parallax Wave. That is easily the best card I could hope for in this spot. Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Wouldn't mind a Blaze Splicer, wouldn't mind a Manamorph. But Wave is awesome. So what I was saying was, this is why I prefer to have as many layers as possible. It was even better if I was drafting against some players that I knew their tendencies, then there's even more to apply, right? So I just love all of the layers. The drafting, the gameplay, the personal knowledge, the research, all of that stuff. We do wheel Elspeth and GT, and I think it's time for me to take GT, especially with, all the other 4-drops entering the deck. I will say that GT is also kind of a 4-drop. Yeah. I don't mind that pickup at all. Now I need one playable to have a deck that I am totally happy with. So, of the premier cards we could have had but did not get, we have Plow, we have Solitude, we have Palace Jailer. Maybe that's about it. Here's Interrupter. Maybe I take the Razor Verge, actually. Interrupter's fine against some decks, like big tap-out decks. Good against Underworld Breach in particular. I'm actually okay bolstering my Pest Infestation Splash. I still think I play a single Forest here. This pack I remember as very bad. I'm going to take the Pride Mage. I'll actually even question that Pride Mage is supposed to be here. Green-White is probably the least supported color pair, or the least, I don't know, intuitive color pair. So maybe that's not worth to have the balance of like green-white when the card is so mediocre. I don't know. Okay, we can take Shelter's Edict. So it does look like I need one more playable with how I drafted here. That could be good old 6. I don't mind that. Get 6 in the deck, and then I might need 2 forests. Okay, maybe I fumbled the bag a little bit in the end there, but I think it's going to be fine. 2 forests, 12. So Magic Online had this figured out. So now that puts me at 5 green sources and 14 white. I think that's totally reasonable. Do have a little bit of double white action going on, so I can't go overboard. Yeah, I mean, I think this deck is quite cool. It's non-power, but hopefully Slow and Steady will win the race. And yeah, that'll do it for the draft portion. All right, guys, quick message here. If you want to have access to my deck guides, my strategy articles, whether you want to pitch me a sweet deck to play on the channel, whether you want to look into coaching, or simply just want to say thank you for the content I put out, please check out my Patreon below and become a Baron today. Now, let's get back to the games. Alrighty, round 1. I keep this hand. I have double forest. I brought that problem upon myself, so I'm definitely ready to take the punishment. Other than that, my hand is quite fine. I will need to find double white at some point, but that should be doable. Ooh, turn 1 library. That's a good one. I'll play turn 1 giver. And by the looks of things, I will be playing Intrepid Adversary turn 2 as a 3-1, trying to get the beats going. Can't really accept, sitting around. I'm not going to attack here because I want to protect the adversary. So Wrath was another fine draw to keep up the gas. So now I can curve 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop into Parallax Wave. And the objective here is to make my opponent lose the game with 7 cards in hand. Galvanic Discharge. So for good measure, I will give protection to the adversary. Now I have to choose between red and white. So I'm playing around Flame Slash. If I say red, I'm playing around Portable Hole, Prismatic Ending. If I say white, when my opponent plays Galvanic Discharge, I think they're more likely to have more red. So that would be Chain Lightning, that would be Flame Slash, so I'm gonna say red. Pretty interesting decision, actually. It's not always this decision matters. So now I expect my opponent to draw a card and play a land. If this adversary gets killed by a white card, I'm gonna be very sad. Okay. Let's prototype this one. For good measure, if it resolves, I will give adversary Vigilance. Already has lifelink. Doesn't need flying. Vigilance. I even play a little bit around, what is that card called? The Emperor. But I guess I'm not really playing around it, because they can just wait until my next attack step, but that leaves me with one more draw step to draw Reprieve, so there's a little bit of value to be gained here. Yeah, I'm just trying my best to step on the gas here in the face of Library. Yeah, this does look like an Emperor to me. Not sure what I can do about it. I do have Touch the Spirit Realm, which is kind of cool. So I guess let's give this one flying. There's some flashy guys on the ground I would hate to deal with here. Let's see, flying. Trying to attack for 6. Let's see what the opponent can do about that. Here's Interrupter. Interrupter is a card that trades with my adversary, which is quite annoying. So what am I supposed to do about that? If I touch channel, touch is probably what I'm supposed to do. And then when it enters back, I pay mana to grow my guys. Yeah, this is going to be tough. Every exchange here is good for the opponent. What happens if I don't do this? If I let this trade happen, then I can deploy Flicker Wisp, link this guy into the big not the non-prototype, and play Lantern. Maybe that's better. Let's try that. Flicker Wisp. I don't like these pauses from my opponent, I gotta say. That has Force of Will written all over it, and that's probably not a game I'm winning. Now I'm getting rid of the Discharge, playing a little bit around Snapcaster Mage. Now I get my 5/4 back. Next combat, I will consider playing Parallax Wave out first. Funnily enough, that would not have helped at all against the Interrupter. Okay, I mean, if my opponent's casting more card draw, I like that a lot. But let's see about that. I might change my mind. Maybe I don't like that. Here's Plateau. My opponent secures their land drop, so that means Expressive Iteration was kind of like a 1-drop. Let's see. Oh, wow. So now this is cool. My opponent finds a Plateau off of Expressive Iteration, but does not play it, right? Plays an island from hand. So my opponent now needs double blue to do something, right? So this changes a lot. This sure changes a lot. So now let me go, maybe just lifelink this one. Yeah, that should be fine. So now I think I'm just supposed to pass the turn. Blue, blue. If that's not drain or counterspell or negation, what is it? So I guess now we have... Yeah, it's the same cards. So I'll just attack here. I'm not going to play into drain. I think that would be a disaster. And I'm gonna leave it to my opponent here to do something. Getting Plateau off Iteration, but playing Island. Super interesting. Let's see what this is. Sunfall. So this is where I go like this. It enters at the end of turn, right? Return it at the beginning of the next end step. Yes. So I do that on my 5-drop. That means my opponent will only get 1 token and get rid of the Flicker Wisp, which is serviceable for sure. Can my deck find the last damage? Let's see. Draw. The Raven. Let's attack. Lifelink. Putting my opponent to 1 here. I really like that I can play Thalia and Thraben. Don't Solitude me, bro. Don't Solitude me, bro. Looks like my opponent is going to 1. Thalia. Thraben. Should I draw now? It's really in the details whether I should draw now. If I draw now, I'm slightly worse against balance. Tough one. I'm actually just going to pass here. I feel like if my opponent's trying to get me with Hull Breacher here, maybe that's not that bad. That's 3 more mana. They don't have to interact, right? So now, my opponent's under Thalia, which is very important. Oh, is this just another Wrath? It's not another Wrath. It's Satia, Aether Flux Genius. Menace Haste 3/5. When it attacks, create a tap token. That's a, okay, so right now that's just a 3/4 staying back. Sure. So now I'm gonna crack my clue, play Parallax Wave, and hopefully take it down. Let's see. Six. Is having a land in hand nice for 6? Sure looks like it. The only problem is I will then be playing into Mana Tithe and Daze. Daze specifically lets my opponent Daze for 0 mana and make the Incubator. But that's not gonna do it. My opponent needs more. So what's if my opponent kills that one? Okay, I think I'm in good shape here if I play my Parallax Wave. Because now I'm stressing my opponent's mana under the Thalia, and all of these guys are lethal. Okay, we take down game 1 again here against Jeskai Control. The Sweeper is incredibly annoying. I will say, with the way I build my deck, I have 0 sideboard cards. I guess there's some case for the Recruit here, but not in this matchup. It's funny I have the Thespian Stage Dark Depths combo out here. I'm gonna have to play Jite against Control. All right, let's go again. So, despite the turn 1 library, I was able to slow and steady win the race here. Pretty cool. Game 2. I have a lot of lands here. But I have an Aspirant. Unsure what I can do about it. 1 drop would be Chef's Kiss. That one is not quite Ocelot Pride, but it's awesome. Just having any pressure will just help in a matchup like this. So now my opponent's representing the counter, but I mean, this is what my card does. I play it out. Maybe we get to see what the counter from last game was. Okay, looks to be Counterspell. So I really like that point about last game is you hit a free land off of your iteration, but you don't play it. So what's the reason for that, right? It's interesting. So now let's just attack. I will say it's annoying my opponent can flash in the 1/2 flyer, but that's how it goes. Do I get Jite online? Yeah, probably. Don't love this. a lot of answers against control is not a good way to win the game. Opponent will remand just about anything in this spot. So whether this is my opponent saying I don't have any more lands or not, we don't really know. Sometimes cycling these is good because then you use your mana better over a couple of turns. Sometimes you cycle these because you don't have lands. And especially with the surveillance in the mix, it's highly possible my opponent has more lands, but this is just better to get selection, especially after binning a couple. Oh, Jacked Rabbit is a good one, so I guess I am playing that guy out. Let's Jacked Rabbit for 3. It's kind of just a card that cannot resolve or cannot, attack at least. Getting Dazed here is annoying. If I saw that card game 1, I could have played a little bit differently, or at least thought about it. It's not always tough whether you should respect the Daze or not. But when I haven't seen it in Cube, I'm not going to respect it. Here's Sadia. Getting in for 3. No bonus effect here aside from the energy. So now I can go Esper Sentinel, kill that card. Probably decent. Human Artificer. Yeah, let's go that card. Think I'm supposed to play out the land here. Touch the Spirit Realm. And yeah, attack for 1. I mean, this is not impressive. Especially because we know our opponent has sweepers in the deck, but it's what we have to work with, and it's some kind of game plan. I don't like my opponents so fast to do their things here. Okay, Blade Splicer is very beatable, especially because we have Pest Infestation. So, playing a land. So, yeah, that land doesn't do a whole lot now, but it is, building up for later. So now I can go kill that one, get 4 1/1s. And I think because I have the Jite, there's no reason to trade in the Sentinel here. No Force of Will on the side of my opponent. I will say the sweeper, the 5-mana sweeper is looming, and I don't like it. I gotta say that. The Sunfall, that's the one. Unfortunately, it looks like we're getting Sunfall here. I get to draw a card, which is not bad. Flicker Wisp is a cool one because I can flicker the Incubator token. That's actually a good draw. Thalia is also a good draw. So now I can go, I guess, Thalia first for good measure. Flicker Wisp the Incubator. And all of a sudden, I'm right back in it after a big sweeper. Oh, look, I think my opponent accidentally F6 there. Oh, that's brutal. I draw Sarah Paragon, which is a good draw. How about Sarah Paragon Luminarch? I think I like that. This is kind of the matchup and the use that I talked about for Paragon earlier. Worth noting is my opponent can have Galvanic Discharge. Because they have energy in the bank, they can actually kill a bigger creature. I feel like I want to put a counter on this Thalia and try and get in for 6. I'm kind of hedging a little bit. My opponent has... No, they can't have that card. Then it would have countered. The Interrupter. Must be something else. Here's Solitude. Amazing card. So, yeah. Curious to see what my opponent does here. Looks like taking care of Paragon is the way to go. And there's even a chance my opponent should... Okay. Interesting. My opponent kills that, takes 3, and now must have a removal spell for Paragon for that play to make sense. Council's Judgment on the Paragon. And then the opponent can attack and kind of buy back some life here. They know about the Jite, though. I'm pretty excited about the Jite. So how do I play Magic here? Oh, Plow. Okay, well, my opponent has a lot of stuff here, and even... Okay. Let's play Jite, see what happens. Put it on the Flicker Wisp. Attack. Okay, so now I'm in the driver's seat. I feel like because I play 1-drops in my deck, I should crack this clue. Slow rolling of the land was quite awesome. So I guess I might as well do it now. Yeah, let's kill the Solitude now. There's some, like, small thread about Ephemerate. Some weird, like, what's it called? The 3-mana, 3/2. Like the Stifle creature, so I just kill it there. I think that's good. Ocelot Pride is a good one, especially because it combos with Jite. Let's see what my opponent has here. Nothing. 2 counters on it. So now I can go... How much am I hedging? I feel like I should just put my opponent as dead as possible next turn. So I do that by going 6, Rabbit, discard that one, Ocelot Pride, gain 2 life, pass, trigger Ocelot Pride with the City's Blessing, and it's now or never for the opponent. And it was indeed never. Wow, this match was awesome. This just one of the best examples I can think of why, you know, my opponent showed a lot of good control tools, including resolving sweepers both games, having Plow, Solitude, dazing stuff, remanning stuff, counterspell, active library, and the opponent just lost 2-0. It's white decks are nothing to play with. Those are pretty darn awesome. And yeah, you know what else is awesome? That's you guys, and the fact that we have more Magic coming up, because remember, this is a single elimination tournament. So let's say I was recording this, I just lost 2-0, the video would be over, but it's not. So yeah, see you guys for the semifinals. Okay, here we are for round 2. This is semifinals for those keeping count. I have a decent hand. I'm playing mono white, splash a little bit of rain. And I have a decent hand that is hoping for Thalia to be awesome against my opponent's strategy. I also have a Jackrabbit, so pretty decent curve here. Mountain can mean probably red aggression, since we just played against a control deck with red. But could also just be, you know, red-black, Reanimator shenanigans. Mana Vault. That is a scary card. So now if I go... turn 2 Thalia, I cannot hardcast Touch of the Spirit Realm turn 3, but I might delay my opponent's plan enough if this is some Stormy type deck, so I think I'm playing the Thalia. It's always tough, because... oh, well, very well played by the opponent here. Wow, okay. I just assume I'm getting crushed since my opponent is imprinting 4 Theolingus. Oh, this is the dream. Is this the Elemental, the big one? The Storm card? Wow, amazing. This is a sick turn 1. Okay. Whew. Wow, that's so good. Like, but that... wow, this turn 1 is amazing. Okay. Vintage Cube is the best. But I guess we didn't need to... we didn't need any confirmation. My opponent is still paying more costs. What on earth is going on here? Just take a quick screenshot here, because this is one of my favorite things. So yeah, nice turn 1, opponent. So Lelia will get in there turn 1 is already absurd, but my opponent also resolved. So let's just dissect this. My opponent cast a draw 7, but they developed 3 mana sources. That means that, let's say we started the game over. They're starting the game with, I guess, 2 mana sources because the vault is tapped, and I have 1. So that was not, absurd. It was a very good play, but it was not absurd. What was absurd was my opponent developed Lelia as well. Vintage Cube is the best. Now my opponent has a Lelia in play, and I'm a very, very sad player. Am I holding up Reprieve? Or developing Good Old Giver? I think I'm playing Good Old Giver because that eventually lets me stabilize against the damage. My opponent will still get the cards though, so this is very, very bad for me. I can't stress that enough. Wow. Turn 1, draw 7 plus Lelia. Let's go. My opponent even has a Detective's Phoenix in the graveyard. So this looks like this is some kind of Boros deck with a lot of fun elements in it. It's not very focused on being either aggressive or combo, but has a lot of fun elements in it, so it can do a little bit of everything. Let's see. In theory, my opponent has access to more hasty creatures here because of the Arena of Glory. Yeah, opponent's for sure living the dream, and now this is something that I really want to improve at, is when I'm so heavily ahead and in the driver's seat, how do I, slam the door? And I think that's exactly what my opponent is trying right now. Unfortunately, the robber triggers. My opponent hits a Steel Seraph, which means they have access to that card later. I will say that Flicker Wisp allows me to flicker that card back under my control. But I might not have all the time in the world to execute that. Would be pretty nice, though, with a big lifelinker. Really hope I draw some kind of play here. That is indeed some kind of play. Holy smokes, that was awesome. So now I have to think. I want to go Skyclave, and I want to get rid of the Lelia. That's like easy, but now I kind of have to think, do I set a trap? And by that I mean, should I attack with Giver of Runes? If I attack with Giver of Runes, my opponent will attack with Robber. From there, it's going to be very, very tempting to play the Seraph, and then I can flicker that onto my control. The other argument is, if I stay back with Apparition, my opponent might not attack with Robber, and that would be disastrous, because it could give protection, so that makes it a kind of a bad attack. Is my opponent mana-tithing me here? Okay. So, get rid of Lelia. The other side of the coin is, what if my opponent... Okay, well, the decision is made for me here. Sure. So that card down, and then we have the same situation. Okay, so not a lot of drama here. My opponent made the decision for me. So now what I'm hoping to see is my opponent attacking with Robber, casting the Seraph for its whatever it's called. Let's see, the prototype. Maybe there's just a burn spell to clear the way and then attack. Come on, opponent. You need to play that Seraph. It's so good. Looks like that's not going to be the case. Okay, so my opponent is super aggressive red with a Mana Bolt, some white for Thelingus, and the Wheel of Fortune. Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't think about this. Okay, this is... that. Okay, that's just incredible, and my plan didn't exactly work. So let's see what my opponent has out here now. A Plains. So I can go Beza. Beza will gain me 4 life, but it's not that good against that card. Flicker Wisp on the token leaves my opponent with a 2/2. Then I'll go to 2, then I'll block, then I'll go Beza. I guess that's my only out. So let's Flicker Wisp the flyer. I am really, really behind here. My opponent has done amazing stuff. Remember, this is my opponent's turn 4, and I'm at such low life total. My opponent now has 5 mana to play with, and it looks like I'm just getting smoked here by Headliner Scarlet. Okay, well, that was a beating. My opponent did sick things every turn, and I did very, very average stuff every turn. So looks like Pest Infestation is good. 4 Toughness on 6 is good, so our Green Splash is actually decent. The Soul Guide Lantern doesn't do anything, but is it better to have a random creature? I guess it is. Everything else I like. I don't like the broken aspect of my opponent's deck. I don't like the 4th Elingus being in there because that means I can't actually sit around. I have to close out my opponent. So yeah, down a game against an absurd draw. That's no shame. Yeah, I guess we keep another mediocre hand and hope for the best. There's a little bit of lifelink and GT going on here. I will say my opponent showed Unholy Heat, Abrade, maybe one more card I can't remember. So my ability, like, these are not realistic to get online, but they're keeping my opponent busy, and then hopefully Sarah Paragon can turn the corner at some point. That's the theory, at least. Plains pass, no shenanigans here. Let's see what my opponent found here. If we have any more turn 1 Wheel of Fortunes up the sleeve. Currency Converter, that's reasonable. Very good with Wheel of Fortune, by the way. Let's see if I can draw something else. Otherwise, I'm just going to go Adversary. 3/1 lifelink. Kinda has to get dealt with. As I said, my plan is to keep my opponent busy, get to 4 mana, and hopefully grind a little bit with Sarah Paragon, and now I even have the Beza. You always want to find spots where that card can kind of buy back some life, or cards, or both. It's kind of like, what's the card called from Old Modern? Timely Reinforcements. Kind of similar. Beautiful artwork, by the way. I love these elementals, you know, kind of camouflaging themselves in nature. It's pretty cool. Robber. So I guess I just trade here. My opponent hit a Triumph. I'm going to trade here partially because of what I already talked about. I do go to 23, so that makes Beza slightly worse, but I guess it's not anything serious. So now do I want GT or Lion Sash? Could see myself wanting Lion Sash. It's fine to just get a creature into play. I will say I'm less likely to exile stuff out of my own graveyard because of Sarah Paragon. And hopefully the +3 toughness out of Sarah Paragon is gonna be good. Also, I'm keeping my opponent off Delirium with the Lion Sash, exiling the Robber, so the Unholy Heat is less likely to be good. If my opponent already has Unholy Heat, it might be the time to go for it. This looks like a Wheel of Fortune to me, which is not what I want to see. 1, 2... And, oh, Lelia. Okay, Lelia I can live with. Lelia is a good one right now, though. So let's see. Let's see what my opponent hits off the top. Ravager, that's not going to do anything. So now I eat that one, take 3, go to my turn. Hey, what I could do is get GT online. It's kind of annoying. My opponent has a Oh, crap. I'm growing my opponent's Lelia here. Totally forgot about that one. I made a video a while back where I actually talked about that. That's so funny. Okay, so I took one more damage for no reason. It's funny that that one more damage makes my Beza slightly better, but... okay, that's funny. Cleaned. The last card was nothing. Okay. So, what do I do here? Getting Jite online does not even kill it next turn. It races quite nicely, but I think I'm just supposed to go Paragon here. I just want to, I want to race my opponent. I want to force my opponent to kill this Paragon. I want to replay my adversary from the graveyard. I'll treat this game as the previous one against Control, where, like, my opponent has an active library, but I can, overcome it with racing. So that's the logic here. Let's see if that theory checks out. I'm gonna take 5 here. I'm taking one more than I wish I would. So now I've taken a couple of damage that I didn't have to take. So yeah, don't exile your opponent's graveyard when they have a Lelia in play. That's not going to end well. It's kind of like Murktide Region in that regard. So now I can go adversary from the graveyard, kick it once. Let's see what this is. This is cool. Look at this. So before damage, currency converter will discard the mountain. That mountain gets exiled to the converter. That mountain grows the Lelia. So yeah, awesome display here from the opponent. The mountain from exile is played. My opponent has 3 mana to work with. Does nothing. Jacked Rabbit is a good one. Maybe I'm supposed to go for that card. Jacked Rabbit. Huh. Because once I start attacking with that, if I succeed in doing that, I will pretty easily chump block the Lelia and race. So I think that card changes my priorities here. The downside is if Jackrabbit gets killed, I kind of did nothing. But it's kind of the same with Adversary. So my logic is the 1-2 punch is better here. Okay, it looks like my opponent can do a lot of damage here. Let's see. They Philia this one. It's 9, it's 10. So my opponent needs 1 haste creature of medium size to kill me. Philia was very strong there. In order to play around this, it's like I should have stayed back with Lion Sash. I think that's a tough call to make when I'm racing. Let's see what the opponent hits here. Our land, I don't care about that. So I'm taking 9 here, going to 4. I don't like this. Ghostfire, Fire Blast. I don't like this. Here's Fiery Confluence. Good game, sweet deck. Yeah, wow. I just got outclassed. Not much to do here. I did grow my opponent's Lelia where I didn't have to. But other than that, I just, played my chance and I got kind of destroyed. Needed to draw a little spot removal. Needed to draw some cheaper creatures. Yeah, it was just mediocre showing. My opponent had a good deck and drew well, so not much to say there. I like my deck. I gave myself a decent chance to play solid Magic across the field. I love the white decks. They can do work against most decks. Sometimes you can struggle a bit against combo. Sometimes you lose to a sweeper. Sometimes you lose to the opponent being more broken than you, basically, which is basically what happened game 1 here. And yeah, But in all the other games, we are doing just fine. So yeah, pretty cool display. I love the control matchup. And here, my opponent just showed why it's fun to live the vintage cube dream. So that will do it for today's video. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend and that you enjoyed your time here. And I hope to see you back soon. Bye, everyone.